The uncomfortable truth we avoid saying out loud, the truth no one wants to admit. About hard choices, let me tell you something most people avoid saying. Not every choice is made from love, dreams, or passion. Some choices are made because there is no space left to breathe. We like to believe life gives us clean options, but that is not always true. Sometimes the road splits and both paths hurt. People judge from a distance because they never carried the weight. They see the result, not the pressure. Comfort makes it easy to speak. Struggle makes it hard to choose. This is not about what looks good. This is about what keeps people standing when everything around them is falling apart. When survival forces you to choose without desire. When survival enters the room, desire quietly walks out. Hunger does not care about dreams. Fear does not wait for passion. When bills stack up and family depends on you, choices change shape. You stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what must be done? Many people live there. They wake up every day doing what they must, not what they love. This is not weakness. This is reality. Survival speaks loud, and when it speaks, it demands action, not comfort. Poverty doesn't ask what you want, it demands what you'll sacrifice. Poverty is not gentle. It does not sit down and discuss options. It pushes, it corners. It forces trades no one prepares for. Time for money, dreams for safety, pride for peace. When money is short, life becomes urgent. The future shrinks. The present grows heavy. You start letting go of things you once thought were non-negotiable. Not because you stopped caring, but because caring alone does not pay the cost of living. Love, judgment, and the weight of responsibility. From the outside, people talk about love like it floats in the air, untouched by pressure. But inside real life, love carries weight. Responsibility pulls on it. Family needs pull on it. Judgment presses down on it. People who never had to choose between heart and duty speak the loudest. They do not see the nights spent thinking. They do not feel the fear of failing those who depend on you. Responsibility is heavy, and carrying it changes how love is shaped. When desperation redefines right and wrong, here is the hard truth. Desperation bends rules. It redraws lines. What once felt wrong can start to feel necessary. Not because values disappeared, but because survival took the lead. In moments like that, people are not chasing comfort. They are trying to protect life, family, and future. Before judging, remember this. When pressure is high, choices are not clean. They are heavy. And sometimes, choosing to endure is the bravest act there is. Poverty is loud, and it pushes you into corners. Poverty is not silent, it screams. Every single day, poverty is not quiet. It does not whisper in the background. It shouts from the moment you wake up. It shows up as fear before sunrise and stress before sleep. Your mind never rests because every hour feels urgent. You are not relaxed. You are alert. Always alert. You think about money while brushing your teeth. You think about money while eating. You think about money even when you try to rest. This kind of noise does not fade. It stays. And when pressure never turns off, it changes how you see the world and how you move through it. Bills, hunger, and shame don't wait for you to be ready. Bills don't wait. Hunger doesn't wait. Shame doesn't wait. They show up whether you are prepared or not. There is no pause button, no grace period for emotions. You are expected to keep moving even when you are tired. You are expected to smile even when your stomach is tight. Poverty removes patience from life. It replaces calm with urgency. When people ask why someone seems rushed or distant, this is why. When survival is the focus, peace becomes rare. When financial pressure starts making decisions for you, at some point, money problems stop knocking and start deciding. They choose where you live. They choose what you eat. They choose what dreams you delay. You tell yourself you still have control, but slowly options shrink. You take paths you never imagined, not because you stopped caring, but because caring alone does not change the numbers. Pressure rewrites priorities. And once that happens, choice becomes limited. Not freed out family expectations that feel like emotional chains. Family love is powerful. But love mixed with need can become heavy. You want to help. You want to protect. You want to provide. And suddenly, your life is not only yours. Every step you take carries someone else's future. This is not about blame. This is about weight. The weight of knowing that if you fall, others fall too. That kind of pressure tightens around the heart and quietly guides decisions. Standing at the edge with no safety net below, this is what survival mode feels like. Standing at the edge. No backup plan. No soft landing. You look down and know there is no room for error. People who never stood there talk about choice. People who stood there talk about staying alive. When the ground feels unstable, you grab whatever looks solid. Not because it is perfect, but because falling is not an option. The choice that looked practical but felt heavy, choosing stability when romance is a luxury you can't afford there. Are moments when love feels like a dream you cannot afford. When safety looks more urgent than romance. When stability feels like oxygen. This is not a fair place to stand, but it is a real one. Choosing security is not about coldness. It is about fear of collapse. Some people choose with hope. Others choose with caution. Both are human. What the world applauds and what the heart resists from the outside. The decision looks smart. People nod. They say it makes sense. But inside, something feels tight. Your heart does not celebrate the same way the world does. You carry a quiet conflict. One part of you knows why you chose this path. Another part wonders what it cost you. This is the space where many live, smiling outwardly while sorting feelings alone. The weight of a decision that looks logical on paper. Everything lines up. Numbers add up. Problems look solved. But emotions do not follow charts. A choice can be sensible and still feel heavy. You move forward, but the weight comes with you. It sits on your chest during quiet moments. It reminds you that logic does not cancel feeling. Assumptions about disability that cloud real understanding. Too many people confuse physical limits with personal worth. They assume instead of learning. They label instead of listening. Strength is not only seen in movement. It is seen in patience, care, and effort. When assumptions lead, understanding disappears. And when understanding disappears, people miss the truth standing right in front of them. Is choosing safety weakness or a different kind of strength? Ask yourself this. Is choosing safety always fear? Or can it be courage in a different form? Is holding things together a quiet kind of strength? Life does not offer the same test to everyone. Some battles are loud. Others are carried silently. And sometimes, staying steady is the bravest thing a person can do. The silent judgments of the world decides your story without hearing a word. World is quick to decide who you are. One look, one detail, one rumor. And suddenly, your whole life is written by people who never sat where you sat. They do not ask what it cost you. They do not ask what you carried. They just decide. This is how judgment works. Fast, shallow, comfortable. It feels easier to label than to understand. And when people rush to conclusions, truth becomes the first thing they leave behind. Complex lives reduced to simple headlines. Real lives are layered. They are messy. They are full of trade-offs and silent struggles. But outsiders reduce them to one-line stories. They turn pain into talk. They flatten years of effort into a single sentence. When that happens, depth disappears. Context is ignored. And suddenly, a human life becomes something people discuss without care. This is not understanding. This is distance pretending to be wisdom. They didn't pay your bills, but they still had opinions. Let's be clear. They didn't pay your bills. They didn't carry your fear. They didn't stand beside you when things were tight. But they still spoke, loudly, freely. People love to speak when there is no cost to them. Responsibility is heavy. Talking is light. Those who carry the weight rarely have time to explain themselves. Those who don't carry it always seem to have something to say. Whispered opinions that slowly turn into shame. Judgment does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It slips into your thoughts when you are tired. It makes you question yourself in quiet moments. Over time, those whispers can start to feel like truth. That is how shame grows. Not from facts, but from repetition. If you are not careful, you begin to see yourself through the eyes of people who never knew your full story. Judgment is cheap. Responsibility costs everything. Here is the line that matters. Judgment costs nothing. Responsibility costs us sleep, peace, and strength. Anyone can judge. Few can carry real weight. So choose whose voice matters. Not the loudest. Not the fastest. But the ones who understand what it means to hold things together when life presses hard. Living with a decision you can't undo when the decision is made and there's no going back once a choice is made. Life moves forward. There is no rewind, no second version. You wake up inside the result of your decision. This is where many people struggle, not during the choice, but after it. Because now you must live inside it. Every day, permanence settles in, and you realize this is not about thinking anymore. It is about adapting. Learning to breathe inside a new reality. At first, everything feels unfamiliar. You learn new routines, new limits, new ways to move through the day. You tell yourself to adjust, and you do, slowly, quietly. Breathing becomes something you notice again. You are not the same person you were before, but life keeps going. So you keep going too. Guilt that whispers even when life looks stable from the outside. Things may look fine, safe, settled, but guilt does not care about appearances. It shows up in silence. It asks questions when the room is quiet. It reminds you of roads not taken. This does not mean the choice was wrong. It means you're a human. Carrying mixed feelings does not make you weak. It means you feel deeply. The loneliness hidden inside security safety does not always bring comfort. Sometimes it brings distance. Emotional space can grow even when life looks steady. You can be surrounded and still feel alone. This is a truth many never say out loud. Security protects the body, but the heart still needs care. Wearing a heavy coat you can't take off living. With a lasting decision is like wearing a heavy coat in every season. You get used to it, but you always feel it. You carry it into good days and hard ones. It becomes part of you. Not as a burden alone, but as a reminder of what it took to survive. Then something happened and everything shifted. The moment that didn't announce itself, but changed everything. Change does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it slips in quietly. A moment, an action, a realization. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, but something shifts. And once it does, you cannot return to the way you saw things before. That is how real change begins. I started noticing things I never noticed before. I noticed patience where I expected frustration. I noticed effort where I assumed ease. I noticed care in places I once overlooked. Little things added up. Small actions spoke louder than big words. Slowly, the picture changed. And so did understanding. Strength appearing where weakness was assumed. Strength does not always look the way people expect. Sometimes it shows up as patience. Sometimes as steadiness. sometimes as showing up every day without complaint. When assumptions fall apart, truth steps in. And truth often looks very different from what people imagine, expectation. Colliding with reality, what I thought would be heavy turned out to be steady. What I thought would break turned out to hold. Reality corrected the story I once believed. This is what happens when you stay long enough to see clearly. Dignity, resilience, and quiet humanity. In the end, what stood out was dignity. The kind that does not seek attention. The kind that shows up through care, effort, and presence. This is strength that does not shout. This is humanity in its truest form, redefining strength, value, and power. Listen carefully. Strength is not what you were taught. Listen carefully. Strength is not the loudness you see in movies or the show of force people celebrate. True strength is quiet, steady, and patient. It is not measured by who can shout the loudest or push the hardest. Strength is measured by who keeps going when the world wants them to stop. Who holds their ground when everything inside them wants to break. Who cares for others when no one is watching. Many have been taught that power comes from display, but real power comes from self-control, from wisdom, and from acting with purpose even when it feels impossible. Disability is not weakness. Character is the real measure. Let me tell you something. Physical challenges do not define a person. They never have. True strength comes from character, patience, and how someone chooses to show up. Someone with limits can have more courage, more patience, and more influence than someone who seems strong on the outside. Weakness is not about what you cannot do. Weakness is about how you handle what life gives you. Character determines how you respond when the world tests you, and that is what lasts long after appearances fade. Power that doesn't shout or show off power does not always announce itself. It moves quietly. It works behind the scenes. It lifts without claiming credit. It steadies without drama. A person who is truly strong does not need to prove it to others. They focus on impact, not recognition. They are reliable, steady, and consistent. This kind of power is harder to see, but it changes more than the loudest voice ever could. And it teaches those around it by example, not by words. The quiet engine that never stops running. Think of it like a quiet engine, always running. You cannot always hear it, but it never stops. It carries weight day after day, season after season. It keeps life moving forward when everyone else is tired or distracted. That is endurance. That is patience. That is power that survives every storm because it never relies on applause or attention. It simply keeps moving. Doing what must be done. Deep. Roots matter more than tall branches. The tallest tree can fall in a strong wind, but a tree with deep roots stands firm. Real strength is built below the surface, where no one sees it. Emotional intelligence, steady patience, and inner wisdom are the roots that make a person uncheckable. Branches may stretch high, but if the roots are shallow, even the strongest storm will topple them. Build depth, not just height. Build strength that lasts, that endures. That does not rely on the world noticing. The moment I saw myself clearly, the mirror moment you can't escape. There comes a moment when you look in the mirror and cannot lie to yourself. The choices, the biases, the fears, they are all visible. That moment is uncomfortable, but necessary. You realize that growth begins with facing truth. Not the truth of others, but your own. It can be painful to see where you fell short, where you avoided responsibility, and where fear guided decisions. But it is the only way to move forward with purpose. Recognizing the bias I pretended not to have, we all have blind spots. Assumptions we pretend are not there. Prejudices we hide from even ourselves. That is human. But growth requires recognition. Pretending not to have bias only strengthens it. When I faced my own assumptions, I realized how often I underestimated people, situations, and my own strength. Facing these biases is uncomfortable, but it is the first step toward change. The stories I told myself about others, we all create stories about people around us. We judge, we assume, we label. Sometimes those stories are convenient, but they are rarely true. Believing them controls how we act, how we respond, and how we feel. Seeing clearly means questioning every story, every assumption. It means asking, is this reality or the story I told myself? Growth begins when we stop living in our own versions of others and start facing reality. Real growth begins with humility. Not pride. Pride convinces us we're right, even when we're wrong. Humility allows us to see the truth. Real growth is not about looking strong. It is about being willing to learn, to admit mistakes, to adapt. Humility opens doors. Pride locks them. When you step aside from pride, you begin to expand in ways you never imagined. Seeing clearly means owning the uncomfortable truth ultimately. Seeing clearly means taking responsibility for your own perspective. It means owning your fears, your misjudgments, and the moments you avoided facing reality. This is hard work, but it is transformative. When you accept what is uncomfortable, you stop hiding behind excuses and start stepping into real strength. What this teaches us about life decisions made in fear always cost more later. Every choice made from fear carries hidden costs. You may avoid immediate pain, but fear narrows vision, blinds judgment, and limits growth. Fear-based decisions may feel safe at first, but they often leave regret and missed opportunities behind. Life tests us not when we are comfortable, but when we feel afraid. Courage does not erase fear. It moves forward anyway. Ignoring fear changes nothing. Facing it and deciding anyway is what shapes a meaningful life. You think you're choosing safety. Reality is you're avoiding growth. Sometimes we believe staying in comfort is protection, but comfort can be a trap. You think you are safe, but in reality, you are avoiding the lessons that come only through challenge. Growth rarely comes to the cautious. It comes to the ones willing to step forward, even when uncertainty is high. Safety without challenge is stagnation. The choice to avoid risk is a choice to stay small. Shallow thinking creates deep consequences. Quick decisions, surface-level judgments, or taking the easy path can ripple through life in ways we never see. Every shortcut, every avoidance, every fear-driven choice carries consequences. Shallow thinking creates patterns that last. What seems minor today can define years tomorrow. Thinking deeply, evaluating fully, and acting consciously may take effort, but it saves you from a lifetime of regret. Unexpected paths often carry the greatest lessons. Life rarely delivers lessons neatly packaged. The unplanned, the uncomfortable, the path you did not choose often teaches more than the road you mapped out. The challenges you resist become the lessons you need. When life shifts unexpectedly, pay attention. The detours, the obstacles, and the surprises are where real understanding and growth emerge. Control your assumptions before they control you. Final truth is simple. Your assumptions shape your choices. If you let them go unchecked, they control you silently. You assume safety is protection, kindness is weakness, and appearances are reality. Reality is rarely so simple. Examine your assumptions. Question them. Adjust them. Life responds to clarity, not to unchecked beliefs. Control your perspective, and you control the path forward. Stop measuring life by appearances. What you see is rarely the full story. What you see on the surface is just that, the surface. Life is never fully captured in a glance. People struggle quietly while smiling loudly. Pain hides behind laughter. Effort is hidden beneath simplicity. Judging someone by what is obvious is like reading the first line of a book and thinking you know the ending. Every life has chapters you cannot see. Every choice carries context you will never understand unless you look deeper. Stop deciding value based on what is easy to notice. Judging the cover while ignoring the pages inside too often. We judge based on covers, the neat appearance, the confident voice, the polished look. But the pages inside tell a different story, one of struggle, persistence, and silent victories. A book cannot be judged by its cover. People cannot either. When you skip the depth and only see the surface, you miss the heart, the lessons, and the courage that define true worth. Diamonds don't announce themselves. True value often hides beneath rough surfaces. A diamond does not scream its brilliance. It waits, patient, buried, and unassuming. People of real worth are often quiet. They do not demand attention, but they leave impact that lasts. Learn to see beyond the obvious. Look for what works quietly, consistently, and with purpose. That is where real strength lives. Looking deeper requires courage, not comfort. It is easier to stay on the surface. It is comfortable to judge quickly, to decide without looking further. But courage asks more. It asks you to notice, to inquire, to dig below appearances. It is uncomfortable, yes, but the reward is understanding. Seeing deeply requires effort, but the clarity it brings changes the way you relate to people, decisions, and life itself. Don't see clearly or miss what truly matters. This is your challenge. See clearly. If you do not, you will continue to make choices based on illusion. You will miss the quiet strength, the hidden lessons, and the truths that shape life. Awareness is not optional. It is the difference between living shallowly and living with purpose. Look carefully. Judge wisely. Understand deeply. The quiet power of unexpected lessons, the lessons you never asked for life, delivers lessons without asking permission. They arrive in ways you did not plan and times you did not expect. You cannot schedule growth. You cannot prepare fully for insight. The lessons that come uninvited are often the ones that shape you the most. They challenge your assumptions, push your limits, and force you to reconsider what matters. Growth rarely comes in comfortable packaging. Growth does not arrive neatly wrapped. It is uncomfortable. It is inconvenient. It pushes against your habits, your comfort, and your sense of control. Discomfort is the signal that change is underway. The resistance you feel is the proof that the lesson is needed. The deeper the challenge, the greater the opportunity to expand. Not planned. Not expected, but necessary. Not planned. Not expected, but necessary. Repeat this to yourself. Life rarely follows the paths we choose. The experiences that force reflection, humility, and adaptation are rarely convenient. Yet they are essential. Growth waits where discomfort lives, and avoidance only delays understanding. Gratitude for the lessons that changed you. It is easy to resent struggle. It is easy to wish life were simpler. But the lessons that challenge you, that stretch you, that make you question yourself, those are the ones that matter. Gratitude does not erase hardship, but it turns it into fuel. It allows you to see the value hidden in difficulty and appreciate how it shapes your strength. Quiet lessons leave the deepest marks. The loud lessons fade quickly. The quiet ones endure. Small moments of insight, subtle realizations, acts of patience and care, these leave marks that define character. Life's deepest teachings are often silent, and those who notice them grow steadily without fanfare. Into people of impact. Final wake-up call to the audience. Let me leave you with this truth. Let me leave you with this truth. Life will challenge you in ways you cannot imagine. It will test your patience, your assumptions, and your courage. It will confront you with choices that feel impossible and lessons that feel unfair. How you respond is everything. Do not wait for permission to grow. Do not wait for comfort to appear. The time to act, to see, And to learn is now. The judgments you make shape the life you live. Every judgment you carry about others, every assumption, every quick conclusion shapes your own reality. How you view people, situations, and opportunities guides your actions. Shallow judgments create shallow lives. Deep understanding creates meaningful ones. Choose carefully what you allow your mind to accept as truth. Your perspective creates your path. What are you afraid to look at honestly? Ask yourself this: what are you avoiding? What truths are you refusing to see? What fears are guiding your choices instead of insight? Look at them honestly. Face them. Stop hiding behind convenience or distraction. Growth begins when you confront what you have been afraid to acknowledge. Courage is born in that confrontation. Responsibility begins the moment excuses are easy. Responsibility is hard. Excuses protect comfort. Responsibility demands action. When you stop explaining away mistakes, fears, or delays, you start shaping your own path. Taking responsibility is not punishment, it is freedom. Freedom to act wisely, to see clearly, and to create the life you want. Let life teach you instead of resisting it. Finally, let life teach you. Do not resist it. Do not fight the lessons because they are hard or inconvenient. Every challenge, every unexpected turn, every uncomfortable truth has value if you let it. Life will humble you. Life will test you. Life will guide you to strength, understanding, and clarity, but only if you stop resisting and start learning.